What is up, meal prepping family? It's Bobby, and today we are gonna rock out some fall-inspired meal prepping for weight loss that is crazy easy to make, huge on flavor, really good for you, and it has all those yummy fall flavors that taste like one giant hug on a plate, because we are making chicken in tomato sauce. Spice-crusted chicken breast cooked in a hot cast iron pan and finished in a tomato rosemary sauce, and served with oven-roasted squash and parsnips in a maple cayenne glaze. So if you love meal prepping for weight loss that actually has flavor and is good for you, click that subscribe, you guys. I have new videos every Friday, and I want you to join the Flav City community. In front of me, I have 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I took the liberty of cutting them into strips. All you do is take a full chicken breast, grab a knife, and cut it into about 3 strips. Now the beauty of doing this is these cook a lot quicker and a lot more evenly than a big fat honker of a chicken breast. But if you know me at all, you know right about now is the time I break out my war chest of spices. So let me grab my spices, including one we have not used yet, Fennel. Now somebody in this room does not like fennel, but I'm gaga for this stuff. It has like a black licorice anise flavor, but if you don't like it, you can probably use like a sweet paprika as a substitute. But I'm gonna go in with 1.5 teaspoons in this small bowl, and then 1.5 teaspoons each of onion powder and garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. And just give this guy a nice mix up. Now, because chicken breasts do not have a lot of love when it comes to flavor, you have to give it all of the love you can, and a spice rub like this adds no fat, but a ton of flavor. First, I'm gonna dust over a nice sprinkling of salt, and a good amount of spice rub. Flip the chicken over, and then hit it with a little more salt and spice rub. Now, the cool thing about this chicken is that it's gonna get flavor from the spice rub and flavor from the tomato sauce later on, but I am gonna push it aside so it can marinate for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm gonna grab my bowl of fall vegetables. In here, I have parsnips, and if you follow me on the Flav City Instagram and Snapchat, you will see my new obsession for the fall is delicata squash. Have you guys had this one before? It is sweet and delicious, and it has an edible skin. So lazy butts like me and probably you are happy because we don't have to peel it, but you do have to cut it. And even though it's called delicata, it is hard and our fingers are actually delicate. So the way I like to do it is take the old rolling pin and tap it through with a knife from top to bottom, and then use a spoon to scoop out the seeds, and then cut them into 1/4 inch thick rounds. Now, another option that I did online the other day is to actually cut them into rounds, leaving the squash whole, and then roasting it that way. And then you end up with sweet roasted squash on the outside and roasted seeds on the inside, and you eat it like that, and it's like a textural paradise. So you can try that too. Now I want to season these guys with 2 teaspoons of olive oil, just under 1 teaspoon of salt, and a few cracks of black pepper. And then give these guys a nice toss up. Now, I am preheating the oven to 450 degrees, which is pretty hot, but I want these to get super roasty and caramelized on the outside because that caramelizes the natural sugars in there. And to get that process started even more, come with me in the oven and check this out. Because I'm preheating the sheet tray in the oven, that way it gets super duper hot, so be careful. And as soon as I put the veggies on, they start cooking immediately. Now try to move everything into one even layer, being very careful not to touch the sheet tray. All right, that looks good. Now pop these guys in the oven for about 25 minutes. All right, let's get back to the chicken now. It's had a super quick marinade, but that spice rub has delivered a little bit of flavor in there. Now I wanna cook this about 80% of the way in the pan, then get it out and start our tomato sauce. So I'm preheating a large cast iron pan over high heat, a little hotter than usual because I want a nice crust to form. Go ahead and drizzle in 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And you could do this in 1 pan because I want to get done quicker and get this in my pie hole. I'm doing this in 2 pans. Perfect. Get that chicken in the hot pan, and you want it to sizzle immediately, and you want to get my favorite splatter guard down so it doesn't splatter everywhere. Now, if you didn't have 2 pans, you have to do this in 2 batches because if you overcrowd the pan, the chicken won't cook evenly. After a couple minutes, give them a flip, and they should be nice and golden brown, just like that. All right, the chicken's cooked about 80% of the way. I want to get it out of the pan now because I don't want to cook it 100% yet. All right, the last of the chicken is out, and oh, I wish smell-o-vision was pushable because the Fennel spice rub smells so good right now. I think even Desi's coming around and is like jonesing on Fennel now. And because chicken breasts are super lean and it's really easy to dry out, I thought it'd be really cool and very comforting and fall-like to finish them in a delicious tomato pan sauce. So keep your pan here over medium heat and then go in with half a small red onion, 3 cloves of garlic that are finely minced. And then something we don't use very often, but it's so fall, is fresh rosemary. It just has this great flavor, and it's gonna give our quick marinara sauce or tomato sauce so much flavor. And the way to get the leaves off of the stalk is to run your fingers the opposite way the leaves grow, and then just finely chop them with a knife. And then add 1 teaspoon to the pan. Go in with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a few cracks of black pepper. Now, normally a marinara sauce can take 30 minutes to 1 hour, or if Nona's doing it, maybe 2 hours, but this one's gonna take maybe 8 to 10 minutes, but it's gonna have almost all the flavors of a 1 hour marinara, but much, much quicker. And then don't forget to shake in a few red pepper flakes. All right, that rosemary is smelling legit. Now it's time to go in with 14 ounces of crushed tomatoes, and then a half a cup of water. And then because the tomatoes are bland, I do wanna season these with a half a teaspoon of salt and a few cracks of black pepper. And I feel like a broken record always saying a half a teaspoon of salt and a few cracks of black pepper, but every time you add something new to a dish or to a recipe, you have to season it. That's how you end up with a final dish that has massive flavor. And already it's kind of coming together. It looks like a proper red sauce. I'm gonna give that 3 minutes. I'm gonna push aside the chicken because the squash and the parsnips are almost done. I wanna reinforce those fall flavors by drizzling over this maple syrup, cinnamon, and cayenne pepper glaze. And for that, I need maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and cinnamon. Go in with 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, just over a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So think about it. We're gonna have that heat and that sweet thing going on. And once it's basted on the parsnips and the delicata squash, so much flavor. It's worth the little bit of calories that the maple syrup has. All right, so it's been 25 minutes for the squash and the parsnips, and this is the exact stage you wanna put the glaze on. Look at these pieces. They're starting to get nice and caramelized, and that is what you eventually want everything to look like. So go ahead and paint that glaze all over the squash and the parsnips.
Never done this.
First time for everything, Des. Sometimes I surprise Desi even, once in a while. But if you put this glaze on in the beginning, the sugar from the maple syrup would burn. So you wanna wait until the last quarter of the cooking process. Now these guys go back in the oven. I'm gonna set the timer for about 5 minutes, but it could take a little longer. Okay, getting back to the chicken and the tomato sauce, there's one thing we haven't done this video, which means all is not right in the Flav City land until I zest. And orange and tomato are BFF. So go ahead and zest about 1/3 of the orange in the sauce.
Fruit of orange and chocolate.
They're undercover BFFs, so you just don't know about it. And then add the juice of half an orange. So one other thing I actually just thought about is when you're cooking tomatoes in cast iron, you can't do it for more than like 10 or 15 minutes because the cast iron can give the tomatoes kind of a metallic or rusty flavor. So if you were gonna make a long marinara sauce that cooks 30 to 60 minutes, do it in a steel pan. So chicken is rested, it goes back into the pot here, splattering Desi with all the tomato juice. And then I'm just gonna keep this over a bare simmer and let it cook for about another 5 to 6 minutes and it's done. What's gonna happen is you're gonna have all that moisture, all that flavor from the tomato sauce, cooking the chicken all the way through. All right, the chicken is done. I just killed the heat. The last thing I wanna do is sprinkle over some fresh parsley in there, maybe a good heaping tablespoon. Just mix that in a little bit. Yum. Honestly, it's like the kind of dish or the kind of pot that would take an hour or 2 to cook, but the whole thing from start to finish took 20 minutes. That is done. Let's grab the parsnips and the squash out of the oven. Perfect. That was honestly like the perfect time. Any more in there, it would have been burned. I love it when a plan works. Check that out, you guys. Look how that glaze just caramelized on top of all the veg, It has that nice color everywhere, and the aromas of the maple and the cinnamon, like a fall aromatherapy is going down in this kitchen right now. Now you could stop there, but sometimes I don't know when. Enough of a good thing is too much, so to up the flavor even more, I'm gonna zest over 1 lemon. And then if there's any fellow crunchaholics out there like me, you will have noticed that there's a lack of crunch in this dish so far, and that is completely unacceptable. So I have 2 tablespoons of chopped pistachios going down here, and then a big pinch of parsley. All right, I've got my glass meal prep containers, and if you want to get these containers or anything I used during the video, I always put the links down below in the description box. Before I actually build the containers, let's build a plate to see what that looks like. Let's grab a nice bunch of the vegetables, put that down, and then a couple of the chicken strips, and some nice tomato sauce to go on top of that. And for the containers, a big old scoop of veggies, and some juicy chicken and tomato sauce. All right, all my containers are done for the week, and I cannot believe I've gone this long without tasting a piece of this. So let's first tuck into some of the chicken. You guys, it's insane how juicy and flavorful that chicken is. It tastes like the kind of chicken bake that was cooking for an hour, let alone it's cooked for 20 minutes, but we still get all those flavors. Now I have to be equal opportunity. Let me go in for some of the veggies. You guys, that tastes like one big culinary hug. The squash is sweet. The parsnips are kind of like celery, potatoy flavor. That maple chili cinnamon glaze is the perfect balance of sweet and spicy. When you guys make this, you have to tag me on social media so I can see your creations. If you want the recipe, and I know you do, it is below down in the description box, along with the storage, the reheating, all the macros, everything to hook you guys up. So make sure you hook me up and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see 2 more epic meal prepping for weight losses, check out the videos below me. But I'll see you next week like I always do. And I'll say unto like I always do, #keep on cooking. Peace.